In a quiet suburban neighborhood on a misty autumn evening, where the streetlights flickered with an almost hypnotic rhythm and shadows danced across the pavement, there existed a secret so dangerous it could shatter lives. It all began with an innocuous-looking pen, sleek, modern, and deceptively ordinary. Yet, this was no ordinary pen. It was a camera pen, a device whose unassuming exterior concealed a truth that would forever change the course of one man's life. Edward Malone was a man of quiet resolve and meticulous habits. A skilled accountant by trade, he lived a life of measured routines and careful planning. His world was neat and predictable, a stark contrast to the unpredictable nature of human emotion. But beneath that calm exterior lay a heart that had known both tenderness and the searing pain of betrayal. Edward had been married to Victoria for over a decade. Their marriage, once the epitome of love and mutual respect, had gradually become a tapestry woven with threads of silence, unspoken doubts, and subtle, creeping mistrust. Edward's suspicions had not come from a single event, but from a slow accumulation of seemingly insignificant details. A delayed reply to text messages, hush phone conversations when he entered the room, and inexplicable absences that left him questioning the foundation of their union. He tried to brush aside the niggling doubts, convincing himself that love was enough to sustain them. Yet, as time passed, the shadow of suspicion grew too vast to ignore. It was during one fateful evening at a small electronics store that Edward's life took an unexpected turn. While browsing the aisles with no particular destination in mind, he was drawn to a display of sleek, modern gadgets. His eyes fell upon a pen that, at first glance, looked like any other, a tool for scribbling notes in meetings. However, a discreet label on its side caught his attention. Campin 3000. Capture life unseen. Intrigued and skeptical, Edward purchased the pen, not entirely believing that a simple gadget could hold the power to unveil hidden truths. Yet, deep within him, a spark of desperate hope ignited. Perhaps, with this pen, he could finally put an end to the uncertainty that had plagued his heart. At home, as twilight melted into night and the house lay draped in a heavy silence, Edward began his quiet experiment. Under the guise of writing a letter, he activated the hidden camera feature and began to record his daily life. Initially, it was only a matter of curiosity, capturing mundane moments as a means to distract himself from the gnawing suspicion that something was amiss. But soon, Edward's intent shifted from simple documentation to a covert investigation of his wife's every move. For weeks, he recorded every interaction, every whispered conversation, every moment that might reveal the truth. Each day, with trembling fingers, he reviewed the footage in the privacy of his study. And then, one chilly evening, as raindrops tapped a melancholic rhythm on the window pane, he saw it. A moment that froze his heart in a mix of disbelief and sorrow. On the screen, in the dim glow of a hidden corner of their home, Victoria was seen in a passionate embrace with another man. The camera pen had captured every detail, the intimacy of their stolen glances, the touch that spoke of secrets shared, and the smile that betrayed her hidden desire. In that crushing moment, Edward felt the weight of 1,000 shattered dreams. The betrayal was not loud or explosive. It was a slow, insidious poison that had seeped into every crevice of his being. As tears blurred his vision, he felt a cold fury rise within him, mingling with a profound sense of grief. The discovery was a knife that cut through the veneer of their shared life, leaving behind a raw wound that pulsed with the pain of betrayal. And yet, amidst the heartbreak, a seed of resolve began to sprout. Edward realized that the truth, however devastating, was a necessary burden if he were to reclaim control over his own destiny. In the days that followed, Edward meticulously collected every piece of evidence, every frame of the hidden video, preserving them as incontrovertible proof of the infidelity that had destroyed his trust. His heart was a tumultuous storm of emotions, rage, despair, and a burning desire for retribution that would not let him sleep. He pondered the morality of his actions and the implications of using technology to expose a private moment, yet his pain eclipsed any ethical quandaries. The camera pen had become both his salvation and his curse, a tool that had given him the power to see what had been hidden, even as it tore his world apart. As the days turned into weeks, Edward's mind became a labyrinth of calculated plans and secret rendezvous. He knew that the evidence in his possession was irrefutable, but he also knew that confronting Victoria immediately could lead to unforeseen consequences. The emotional stakes were high, and every action carried the risk of further shattering the fragile remnants of their life together. Instead, Edward embarked on a silent journey, a journey of meticulous planning, psychological warfare, and the slow, deliberate accumulation of power. In the quiet solitude of his study, he pored over every frame of the incriminating footage, analyzing every detail as if it were a puzzle to be solved. He studied the man in the video, a shadowy figure whose identity was a mystery waiting to be unraveled. Edward's investigative mind, honed by years of careful number crunching and analytical reasoning, turned to work as he began piecing together the man's background. Late nights were spent poring over social media profiles, public records, and any scrap of information that could reveal the truth about this enigmatic interloper. At the same time, Edward's internal struggle grew more intense. He was tormented by conflicting emotions, a deep-seated sorrow for the love that had once defined his marriage, and an equally powerful urge to exact a revenge that would make his betrayal burn in the annals of history. Every heartbeat was a reminder of the double life he had been forced into, a life where trust was an illusion and love a fragile, shattered dream. In this crucible of emotion, Edward discovered a resolve he had never known before. The pain of betrayal became his fuel, and the quest for justice, albeit dark and vengeful, became his singular purpose. In the midst of his self-imposed isolation, Edward began to craft a plan that was as intricate as it was ruthless. He reached out to a small circle of trusted confidants, experts in cybersecurity, private investigation, and even a discreet legal advisor. Each meeting was shrouded in secrecy, held in dimly lit rooms where whispers and furtive glances replaced ordinary conversation. Every conversation was a step towards reclaiming his dignity and ensuring that the truth would not remain hidden for another moment. The wheels of Edward's plan began to turn with a precision that belied the emotional turmoil within him. His strategy was not to confront Victoria head-on, but rather to orchestrate a series of events that would force her to face the consequences of her actions in a way that was both inevitable and inescapable. He decided that the first step would be to expose her betrayal to those who mattered most, her friends, her colleagues, and ultimately, the world that had once admired her grace and charm. The evidence he had gathered was damning, and Edward knew that the reveal would be a bombshell that could not be ignored. In a daring move that blurred the lines between justice and vengeance, Edward began leaking select pieces of the footage online through anonymous channels. The internet, with its insatiable appetite for scandal and its unyielding pursuit of truth, soon became a battleground where whispers of the affair spread like wildfire. The story of Victoria's double life became a digital epidemic, sparking heated debates in social media forums, news outlets, and even boardrooms where her reputation was held sacred. The once serene world of Edward and Victoria was now under siege by public opinion and relentless scrutiny. Yet, even as the truth emerged from the shadows into the harsh glare of day, Edward's inner world was in chaos. He felt an indescribable mix of satisfaction and sorrow, a perverse sense of vindication that was inextricably linked with the pain of losing the life he once cherished. Every headline and every comment online was a bitter reminder of a love that had been betrayed and a sacrifice that had been made in the name of truth. Edward's revenge was a double-edged sword. It cut deeply into the fabric of his former life, leaving him with scars that would never fully fade. In the aftermath of the public revelation, Victoria's world crumbled. The carefully constructed facade of her life began to disintegrate as friends distanced themselves. Her colleagues questioned her integrity, and even her own family found it hard to reconcile the woman they thought they knew with the one revealed by the hidden camera. For Victoria, the exposure was not just a public humiliation. It was a profound personal betrayal, a moment of reckoning that forced her to confront the consequences of her choices. Her eyes, once filled with a charming confidence, now brimmed with tears of regret and desperation as she realized that the path to redemption, if there was any at all, was steeped in sorrow. As the days turned into a tumultuous blur of legal battles, media frenzy, and emotional confrontations, Edward remained a ghost in the background, silent, calculating, and resolute in his quest for closure. He avoided the limelight, preferring the solitude of his study where he would watch the public unravel the threads of Victoria's life like a slowly unspooling tapestry. In his heart, however, a silent voice whispered that his journey was far from over. The camera pen had been the catalyst for a series of events that had laid bare not only a hidden affair, but also the dark underbelly of a love that had once seemed invincible. Haunted by the faces of those he had once known, friends, neighbors, and colleagues who now viewed him with a mixture of pity and disdain, Edward struggled to reconcile the man he once was with the man he had become. His transformation was subtle yet profound. Where there had been a gentle soul with a penchant for quiet introspection, there now resided a man hardened by betrayal, yet refined by the painful clarity that only the truth can bring. The solitude he once sought as an escape from the mundanity of life had become a crucible where his inner demons were forged into instruments of retribution and eventual healing. In the quiet aftermath of the storm, as the digital dust settled and the echoes of scandal faded into the background, Edward found himself at a crossroads. The evidence of the betrayal had achieved its purpose, but the cost was immeasurable. A lifetime of shared dreams, whispered promises, and tender moments that could never be reclaimed. The camera pen, once a symbol of possibility and hope, had transformed into a relic of pain, a memento of a love that had been irreparably broken. Yet, in the depths of his despair, Edward discovered a glimmer of something unexpected, the possibility of forgiveness, not for Victoria, but for himself. In the quiet solitude of his study, amid stacks of evidence and the persistent hum of the digital age, he began to understand that revenge, while satisfying in its own way, could never truly fill the void left by betrayal. The journey had taken him to the brink of destruction, but it had also forced him to confront the very essence of his own humanity, a humanity that was flawed, resilient, and capable of emerging from even the darkest of betrayals with a newfound sense of purpose. In a final act of introspection, Edward gathered the remnants of his shattered past and the lessons learned from the painful voyage of retribution. He recognized that the camera pen, with all its hidden power, had not only exposed the lies of another, but had also illuminated the hidden depths of his own heart. With a resolve forged in the crucible of pain, he decided that his next step would be to rebuild a life defined not by the scars of betrayal, but by the enduring strength of the human spirit. In this new chapter of self-forgiveness and personal growth, Edward sought to rediscover the beauty of connection, a beauty that could be found even in the aftermath of the most devastating revelations. The story of the hidden lens of betrayal, once a tale of infidelity and vengeance, evolved into a poignant narrative of personal rebirth. It became a reminder that while the truth can be painful and the journey toward redemption is fraught with emotional peril, it is ultimately a path that leads to the healing of a wounded soul. Edward's quiet determination to move forward, to embrace his own vulnerabilities and learn from the bitter lessons of the past, resonated as a testament to the enduring resilience of the human heart. In the silent echoes of that autumn evening, as the wind whispered through the barren trees and the last traces of daylight faded into memory, Edward Malone emerged from the ruins of his former life. A man transformed by the relentless pursuit of truth and the unyielding desire to reclaim his own dignity. And though the camera pen that had set all these events in motion now rested in a forgotten drawer, its legacy lived on in the hearts of those who had borne witness to the unraveling of a secret that changed everything. The story of betrayal, revenge, and ultimately, forgiveness became a timeless saga, a narrative etched in the quiet corners of a life forever altered by the discovery of hidden truths. Through the dark corridors of despair and the luminous paths of newfound hope, Edward's journey served as a solemn reminder that even in the face of heart-wrenching betrayal, the human spirit can rise, transformed and tempered by the fires of experience. His quest for truth, while painful and fraught with moral ambiguity, ultimately paved the way for a deeper understanding of the complexities of love and the intricate dance between trust and deception. In embracing his own vulnerability and acknowledging the depths of his suffering, Edward found a way to reconcile the fragments of a broken past, and in doing so, he discovered that true liberation lies not in the pursuit of revenge, but in the quiet act of forgiving oneself. And so, as the world turned inexorably onward, leaving behind the echoes of scandal and the ashes of a love once thought unbreakable, Edward Malone stepped forward into the uncertain light of a new dawn, one in which the promise of redemption shimmered like a beacon on the horizon, guiding him towards a future where every scar told a story of survival, and every whispered secret became a note in the eternal symphony of the human heart.